Level 0. The moment before. Everything is still. The sky is calm, birds chirp, traffic hums, and people go about their day, unaware that history is about to split open. Level 0 is the world we all know, the one before the flash. No alarms, no tremors. The countdown, if it ever existed, was silent. In this moment, the bomb is a steel capsule, cold and sealed, buried in a silo or perched on a bomber wing, still sleeping, still waiting. At level 0, there is no radiation, no heat, no blast, just potential. And this potential is unlike anything else we've created. It's the stored energy of thousands of suns, trapped in a shell no larger than a car engine. All that fury, one button away. And when it happens fast. There is no thunder before lightning. The detonation happens at the speed of light. At level 0, the world is perfectly normal, but it's also sitting on a hair trigger. Level 1, Flashpoint. The bomb has detonated. But this isn't Hollywood. There's no slow-motion boom. There's a blinding white flash, brighter than the surface of the sun, erupting from nothing. It lasts less than a second, but it's seared into every retina within dozens of miles. This is thermal radiation, electromagnetic fire. In the first few milliseconds, it scorches the earth and anything alive on it. Human skin that sees the flash directly gets cooked instantly, like paper under a magnifying glass. The closer you are, the more brutal the burn. Even at several kilometers away, third-degree burns are inevitable. Concrete casts shadows, asphalt bleaches, eyeballs rupture, clothing ignites, foliage evaporates. The world doesn't roar, it shudders silently, just for a moment. At this level, there's no shockwave yet, no sound, just light, fire, and heat, a sun born on Earth. The temperature at the core of the blast reaches tens of millions of degrees Celsius, hotter than the center of the actual sun. Air molecules are ripped apart. At ground zero, nothing recognizable remains. This level kills by heat alone. It brands everything with white silence. Level 2, Shockwave. Now, the boom arrives. It doesn't roll in gently. It slams into the world like an invisible sledgehammer traveling faster than sound. Air itself becomes a weapon. The shockwave expands outward from the fireball at supersonic speed. It's not wind. It's compressed atmosphere moving with such force it flattens buildings like they're made of paper. Skyscrapers don't just fall, they crumple. The pressure shatters windows miles away, pushing glass like shrapnel into walls and bodies alike. At a kilometer from ground zero, the overpressure is over 20 psi. That's more than enough to rupture lungs, burst eardrums, and throw people across streets. Cars are hurled, trees are snapped in half, trains derail, bridges twist like spaghetti. This is the concussive phase, the air itself turned into a bulldozer, and right behind it comes the suction. After the initial outward blast, the low-pressure vacuum sucks air violently back toward the epicenter. Fires get reignited, people suffocate, debris returns like reverse shrapnel. And remember, this is still just the beginning. We haven't even touched fallout. Level 3 Firestorm. Now the city burns. Not with one flame, but with thousands. The initial heatwave has already ignited rooftops, gas stations, cars, forests. But it's the aftermath that turns Level 3 into a different kind of hell. The firestorm doesn't behave like normal fires. It's a coordinated monster. Heat rises, pulling fresh oxygen inward from every direction. Winds whip toward the blaze at hurricane speeds, feeding it, growing it. Whole city blocks are consumed, roads buckle, underground gas mains explode. The heat gets so intense that steel beams soften and collapse. Plastic liquefies, asphalt melts. People who survive the blast are now trapped in a landscape that's turning into a furnace. Smoke clogs lungs. Rescue is impossible. Temperatures can reach 800 to 1000 degrees Celsius in the core of a firestorm. Survivors have minutes, sometimes seconds, before the air itself becomes unbreathable. And the fire doesn't choose targets. Hospitals, schools, shelters, everything burns. This is the level where modern cities, Tokyo, Berlin, New York, become Dresden, 1945. Even miles away from the blast, embers rain down, forests catch fire, fires leap highways. There is no firefighting effort, there is no containment. The sky turns orange and black. Level 3 is when civilization itself starts to vanish. Level 4, Fallout. This is where time stretches and the horror lingers. When a nuclear bomb detonates near the ground, it vaporizes soil, water, steel, and flesh, pulling everything upward into the iconic mushroom cloud. But what goes up must come down, and when it does, it returns as fallout. Tiny radioactive particles, coated in death, drift from the sky like snow. It looks harmless. Sometimes it's even beautiful, a fine ash settling on rooftops, trees, and skin. But every particle is deadly. This fallout contains isotopes like cesium-137, iodine-131, and strontium-90. These are not just radioactive, they're persistent. They contaminate water, food, air, and they stay. Radiation levels spike to hundreds or thousands of roentgens per hour near the blast zone. In such conditions, just a few minutes of exposure can mean radiation sickness. A few hours? Death. At 300 to 400 rads, symptoms arrive fast: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, weakness. Hair begins to fall out, the immune system shuts down, internal organs hemorrhage. It's a slow death, agonizing. And even if you survive the initial fallout exposure, the long-term effects begin. Cancer, genetic mutations, sterility. The environment becomes toxic, farms are ruined, rivers undrinkable, fish inedible. Fallout spreads with the wind. Depending on the weather, it can blanket towns hundreds of kilometers away. Entire counties must be evacuated. Some zones remain uninhabitable for decades, some for centuries. You don't need to be in the city to die at level 4. You just need to be downwind. Level 5, collapse. This is the level where systems die. The electricity grid is gone, transformers fried, power lines melted, substations destroyed. Phones are silent. Satellites may still orbit, but no one on the ground can hear them. GPS? Offline. Internet? Dead. Hospitals? Either vaporized or overflowing with the dying. But the collapse isn't just technological, it's psychological. Governments scramble. Communications break down. Martial law is declared in unaffected regions. Roads are jammed with refugees, all trying to flee an invisible killer that can't be outrun. Supermarkets empty. Water stations run dry. Crime skyrockets. Hospitals are overwhelmed. There aren't enough doctors. There aren't enough antibiotics. Blood banks run out in hours. And radiation doesn't care about social class. Presidents, doctors, children, they all breathe the same poisoned air. Infrastructure doesn't return in days or weeks. In Hiroshima, power took months to return. In modern cities with complex grids, it may take longer or never. Nuclear winter begins to flicker at the edge of this level. If multiple bombs are detonated in rapid succession, ash and soot injected into the stratosphere block sunlight. Crops fail, temperatures drop, the world begins to starve. This isn't just the collapse of a city. This is the unraveling of everything that connects us. Level 6, the regional annihilator. This is where history stops whispering and starts screaming. A level 6 nuclear explosion represents a yield of 1 to 10 megatons of TNT. For comparison, the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima was just 15 kilotons. At level 6, we're talking about a blast, at least 66 times more powerful than the most destructive nuclear device ever used in warfare. Now enter the Tsar Bomba. Tested by the Soviets in 1961, it clocked in at 50 megatons on the low end of level 6. Yet it was enough to shatter windows 500 miles away. If dropped on a major city today, say Paris, it wouldn't just level the city. The heat would ignite everything flammable within 30 miles. The fireball would consume parts of surrounding countries. Shockwaves would travel across the continent. Thousands of square miles would become uninhabitable. But the worst part? The radioactive fallout. Winds would carry cesium-137 and strontium-90 across Europe. Crops, rivers, livestock, all poisoned. Survivors wouldn't be the lucky ones. They'd face radiation sickness, famine, disease, and the total collapse of infrastructure. Hospitals? Gone. Roads? Melted. Governments? In chaos. This isn't a strategic strike. This is an erasure of a region. Military, civilian, cultural, economic, all gone. Level 7. This level doesn't exist in the real world, yet. But the physics suggests it's possible. Hypothetically, If nations ever created nuclear weapons in the 50 to 100 megaton range, we'd enter level 7. The theoretical full-strength Tsar bomber was designed for 100 megatons but never tested at that level because the Soviets feared it would literally destroy the aircraft dropping it. Now imagine it being used. Level 7 isn't a city killer, it's a continental scar. The fireball radius could stretch 10 miles wide, and the thermal radiation might cause third-degree burns over 70 miles away. That's the distance between Manhattan and Philadelphia. The shockwave would cause ground liquefaction, rupturing earth crusts and possibly triggering earthquakes in tectonically sensitive areas. The mushroom cloud would rise past the stratosphere, injecting radioactive particles directly into the jet stream. Fallout would circle the globe multiple times, potentially contaminating agricultural land on other continents. The global food supply? Compromised. International trade? Paralyzed. If detonated near an ocean, it would cause hypersaline tsunamis filled with radioactive debris, slamming coastlines hundreds of miles away. Survivors wouldn't just face radiation, they'd face a new climate where sunlight dims due to soot and global temperatures drop by several degrees. This bomb wouldn't change a battle, it would change the planet. Level 8. Now we enter forbidden territory. Theoretically, a level 8 bomb would push yields beyond 100 megatons into the hundreds of megatons. These haven't been built, not because we can't, but because there's no purpose other than apocalyptic devastation. A level 8 explosion would tear the sky open. The fireball might span 15 miles in diameter, hot enough to fuse entire cities into glass sheets. Concrete would vaporize, metal would boil, thermal radiation could cause lethal burns 100 miles out, reaching areas that weren't even in line of sight. A city like Los Angeles wouldn't just vanish, it would leave a crater wider than some entire states. The shockwave. Supersonic winds, leveling structures well outside the blast radius. Glass would shatter in neighboring countries. Eardrums burst, internal organs collapse under pressure. But it's what happens above that's worse. The explosion would inject radioactive particles and soot so high that the ozone layer could be partially destroyed. With less ozone, UV radiation from the sun would flood the earth. Skin cancer spikes, crops die, marine ecosystems collapse. The skies would darken with soot, and as sunlight gets blocked, global temperatures plunge, a nuclear winter years in duration. Climate refugees would number in the billions. Nation-states might collapse, humanity might endure, but civilization, as we know it, would not. Level 9. This is no longer a weapon, it's planetary vandalism. A level 9 nuclear explosion imagines yields in the gigaton range, 1,000 megatons or more. No nation has built this, no war doctrine supports it, but in speculative scenarios, alien wars, doomsday devices, sci-fi experiments gone wrong, this might be the upper limit of destructive potential from a nuclear payload. At this level, the explosion wouldn't just destroy a continent, it would scar the Earth's crust. Imagine dropping this device in the Himalayas. The fireball would vaporize mountains, creating a crater potentially tens of miles deep. Entire tectonic plates could be destabilized, unleashing mega earthquakes across Asia. The Himalayas would no longer exist. Thermal radiation would ignite forests, fields, cities, across multiple nations at once. Ash and soot from the firestorms could block out the sun for decades. Rivers would boil, lakes would evaporate. Radiation would make half a hemisphere uninhabitable. The atmosphere might begin to deform, weather systems collapse, rain patterns shift. The jet stream, disrupted by global temperature shifts, could stall. Floods, droughts, storms, all amplified beyond prediction. The biosphere wouldn't just take a hit, it might never recover. Countless species from plants to insects to mammals would go extinct, not from the blast, but from the death of ecosystems they depend on. There wouldn't be refugees, because there would be nowhere to flee. Level 10. This is pure speculation, a hypothetical device capable of destroying all life on Earth. The planet Ender would carry yields in the tens or hundreds of gigatons, but with one purpose: mass extinction. It wouldn't just break cities or continents, it would break the planet's life systems completely. If detonated underground, it could rupture the mantle, trigger supervolcano chains, or initiate a planet-wide tectonic collapse. If detonated in the ocean, it might release enough heat to vaporize entire seas, unleashing a global hydrothermal storm unlike anything Earth has ever seen. The explosion would generate a fireball visible from orbit. It would turn air into plasma. The mushroom cloud might escape Earth's gravity temporarily. Oceans would boil, continents would ignite, and winds would surpass Mach 5. All nuclear winters that came before would pale in comparison. This wouldn't just dim the sun, it would blacken the skies entirely. Photosynthesis would halt, plants would die. The animals that eat them? Gone. Humans, starved, sick, or buried under ash. Radioactive particles would settle in every biome, from jungles to deserts to polar ice. Rain would carry radiation to the deepest aquifers. Atmospheric chemistry would collapse. The planet would become Mars-like, not from a single blast, but from the climatic chain reaction that followed. The Earth wouldn't explode, but it would be unrecognizable, silent, toxic, lifeless. This level doesn't exist, but it's been dreamed of in Cold War bunkers, sci-fi novels, and strategic war games. And perhaps that's the most terrifying part. It could exist if someone wanted it badly enough. Hope you enjoyed this video.